Labor leader Anthony Albanese has caused controversy after suggesting that he would support an increase in the minimum wage of 5.1%. He accused the coalition of deliberately letting wages stagnate as inflation rose over the last decade.
The government wanted to deliberately keep wages low over the last decade, and they have. I deliberately want to see wages increase, and I will. The last increase that the Fair Work Commission made was 2.5%, even though inflation was just 1.1%. So we know that the Fair Work Commission has taken these issues into account.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison has accused him of proposing economic vandalism, warning the increase would hit small businesses hardest and further drive inflation. Economists and business owners have been wary of the proposal, saying a wage increase of more than 3% is unsustainable and would lead to a further increase in interest rates. Let's bring in the CEO of Australian Industry Group, Willox, for his thoughts on this. Innes, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. So what would a 5.1% increase to wages mean?
Well, anything of that amount would be incredibly economically destructive. It would cost jobs, it would drive up prices, it would drive up interest rates, and it would make harder for businesses to employ people and to retain people. And at a time where our economy is still recovering from the biggest shock for a century, it would be a hammer blow for a lot of businesses. It's sort of made out as if every business in Australia is a BHP or a Rio Tinto. It's not the fact. Australia's economy is made up of hundreds of thousands of smaller and medium-sized businesses who would struggle to pass this on. They've already been hit hard by increasing costs themselves through supply chain disruption and the like, and then a wage increase of this extent at a time when underlying inflation is 3.7% would be incredibly harmful to the economy. The decision will be made by the Independent Fair Work Commission, not by any government. A government hasn't intervened in the Commission's deliberations for 2 decades or so. So we've got to remember that, there's just a voice on the side from unions, from business, from opposition leaders, from government. In the end, it's an independent tribunal that makes the decision, weighing up what our economy is going through.
OK, minimum wage at the moment, $20.33 an hour. If it were to rise by 5%, and if my maths is correct, I wasn't that great at maths in school, but if my maths is correct here, we're only looking at an extra $1 an hour, right? Is it really that destructive?
So what you're looking at, say the unions are after a 5.5% increase, that's about $42.60 a week. And you add that up and then you accumulate it across the workforce, that's a significant amount for smaller businesses to take. And this argument, that some people put up, if they can't afford it, they shouldn't be in business, just ignores the reality of what a lot of business owners and managers are going through at the moment, trying to manage big spikes in costs that they're having, uncertainty, labour shortages and the like. So it's not just a simple equation. Money for business just doesn't grow on trees. It has to be earned, and businesses have to balance the books and try and do a bit better than that. And this, for many, would really hurt them.
Sure. Well, workers might point to the fact that wages have been flat for, longer than the current government's term at the moment, beyond 9 years. I mean, does that feed into the argument that, whatever system is currently in place isn't working?
Well, it's not quite right that wages have been flat. Wages have been keeping relative pace with CPI and the like. The point now is that we've had a relatively low inflation for some time because of the way our economy has been set up. We've now had an inflation spike, largely caused by what's going on overseas. The question is how long this lasts. And we have a headline inflation rate from the past quarter of 5.1%. Underlying inflation is 3.7%. The government, has set aside about the equivalent of 1.3% in a wage increase for low and middle income earners through the last budget. Employers also have to pay the 0.5% superannuation guarantee from the 1st of July, which has always been seen as a wages trade-off. So it's a fairly complex story. It's not just a simple straight out, that's the number, give us this number, or a bit more, the unions want.
What would you like a wage rise to be at? What percentage?
Well, Pete, what we've put forward in our submission is a 2.5% wage increase, which is about $19.60 a week. plus you have to take on top of that the superannuation guarantee of 0.5%, plus that you have to take into account, you must take into account the steps that government has taken to ease the burden on low and middle income earners as well. So when you put all of that together, you're looking at an increase in total of about 4.3%, but that includes a 2.5% increase in the minimum wage. That's what we think is sustainable. Much above that is unsustainable for a lot of business.
Okay, Innes Willox, thanks for your time as always. We'll talk to you soon.